go.
Hi, how's it going? It's nice to see you all, and have a good night.
Good job. We
Thanks.
win.
We win. We all did it together. Um, yo, hey, what's up, guys? Hey, welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday, the show where we talk about whatever is on your mind, whatever's got you late up at night. Can't fall asleep, and you're thinking over it, and you're like, man, I just can't stop thinking about that. Maybe you got one of those, or
Mm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
something's come up today, a little bit of trouble, maybe the family or with some personal relationships, or maybe your car broke down and you're just looking for someone to encourage you to keep on going, keep on chugging. That's what we're here to do. We aren't psychologists, psychiatrists, psychoanalytics, psychonauts, people who travel the psyches.
Mm.
I just made
Whoa.
that one up, but it would be accurate. Psychonauts. Um, where's my green? See, in Japan. In Japan.
What? You ever? I love the way you answer questions. You answer your questions with an explanation first.
Yes, it's necessary for this one because it's a stretch. In Japan, they didn't have a word for green. They believed all greens were shades of blues. So ao was green. Midori, which is a word for green, is a newer term. In fact, they didn't come up with the identity of green until after World War, I think it was one. And the Americas came over and they were like, explained to them, like green is its own color.
Because of
And
St.
so then they
Patrick's Day.
finally, yeah.
They're like,
So,
hey, happy St. Patrick's Day. Where's your green, man? Pinch.
so I am wearing green in the spirit of Japan, because my underwear is blue. And that's what I got. And I'm sorry, that's
wonderful.
Yep, that's about all I got for that.
Yep.
I had green on earlier today because my black coat, my mom stuck, because I picked my mom up from the airport today, and she stuck a little green clover. She said, "You don't want to get kissed," and I was like, "Kissed? It's you kiss people on the St. Patrick's Day, you pinch them." She's like, "Oh, well, if you're a girl, you get kissed," and I was like, "That's weird." Okay, it's pinch for guys. I don't know. My mom's
yeah. What is that?
that
What
was
is
what my
that?
mom said, so I guess that's the world she grew up in. I think that our generation stopped that at some point. They probably stopped it before my generation.
Oh, the kissing thing?
Yeah, the kissing thing.
Yeah.
Was that a part of your generation?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it was always pinching.
Yeah, it
And
was always
people
pinching for
meant
men
it
too.
too, man. I grew up in an area where they took things seriously. Like you didn't wear
Oh,
green on St. Patrick's Day. You seriously got pinched like multiple times. Or maybe that
wow.
was just me. I don't know. People thought it was safe to pinch me like I wasn't going to like do something back to him or something maybe. I don't know.
I always chose not to wear green on St. Patrick's Day. Not because I wanted to be pinched, but because I was in rebellion of the societal norms.
Oh, yes.
So it was like, why would I follow that rule? That's stupid. Like, what logic is there behind that? My brother would do the same because there's no logic to St. Patrick's Day and pinching people. St. Patrick's Day should be a fantastic feast day
It
where
absolutely
we
is.
celebrate the amazing, incredible life of St. Patrick. And if you guys don't know it, I would highly recommend, if you have Audible or anything like that, listen to the what's it called?
The Trials of St. Patrick. It's an
Yeah, the
audio
Trials of
drama.
St. Patrick. Yeah, it's an
Yep.
audio drama, and it's if you haven't experienced an audio drama before, this is a fantastic one to start with. It
Mm-hmm.
is intense. It is so good.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting. They had one of the guys who did the voice of the older Saint Patrick he was the actor that played Gimli in the Lord of the Rings
really?
trilogy. Yeah,
Oh, that's so
yep. I was like,
awesome.
oh, I know that guy's voice, and it's like, yep, that's him. And yep, so there
Nice.
were some pretty good voices in there. They did a pretty good job on that. It's pretty
Yeah.
intense. I'll just a disclaimer, it gets pretty
Mm-hmm.
intense,
It
but
does.
his life was pretty intense. So
Yep.
um
Yeah, yeah. He was. Yeah, his life was pretty intense. He was captured and made a slave, and yeah,
mhm.
uh, a lot of people don't know that about St. Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yep. St. Patrick, pretty cool guy. Anyways, yeah, we're doing Don't Worry Wednesday. So
Yeah, let's do
I'm
it. What do you
excited.
say?
Yeah. Joe, how are you doing today?
Man,
This is a
I am great.
recap.
I'm having a great day. You
Me
know,
too.
it's a because it's St. Patrick's Day, it's a feast day, so I ate an extra scoop of peanut butter. It was
I
good.
didn't celebrate today's feast dayness, which I should have, but I didn't. I didn't eat anything today.
Now, what's going to get interesting is that Friday is
Yeah,
my patron saint's solemnity. So,
that's right. Is it
uh,
Joseph?
Saint Joseph. Yep.
Yeah. Which one?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't know. Saint Joseph the something. I
Of the family?
don't know. Let me
Something?
look real quick. You know what? Say some stuff. I'll look it up.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm gonna say some stuff, and Joe's gonna look it up.
Oh, husband of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
There it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, his title is wrapped around somebody else, which is funny because it's not like earthly father of Jesus.
Right.
No, it's just put on Mary.
Right.
It's Mary's
Well, but
responsibility to make him
he's
look
got a
good,
bunch of feast
which
days.
is
There's
pretty
the
easy for her. She's
worker,
amazing.
there's the
Yeah,
guardian of the, body of Christ. There's all kinds of stuff.
yeah,
It's great.
that's true. I
It's
like that
great to
one.
have him for a patron saint because I have lots of feast days,
Hmm.
you know.
That's right.
So anyway, there's your yeah.
Cool. Well, let's say we get into this, hey? Thank you all for being in the chat. You guys are awesome. I see you guys writing your stuffs down, and it's really cool. So thank you all for being here,
Hmm.
and let's have a great episode. So I'm gonna go ahead and read down the list of who we've got on the queue,
I'm
and
gonna
if
read it.
you,
I'm gonna read it silently while you read it aloud.
I'll allow that. Um, and if you're here, just put a message in the chat. So I'm looking for Sevlev, SK, Awkward / Pika, Jesse, Khan Vulcan, Amira, Random, Ian Lam, Vanna V, Baka, an Anonymous, Helmarock Hero, and Pear.
Yes, and we did promise anonymous that we
Yep.
would start, and
Yes. And I think that's
I'm
what we're going to
pretty
start
sure
off with.
anonymous is listening today, so
Yeah.
we can start with that one.
Hey, Pear. Pear's here
No,
too. Cool.
I mean, you're the host. I should let you
No,
decide.
I'll just shut up.
I made an affirmative statement.
Yeah, let's do the anonymous one. Let's start with that one because we promised we would last time. And I think that's a good idea. And it will give everyone time to gather in and etc. So
Yes, let's do that.
this one was written in an email to us. By the way, if you want to send us a topic, just send us an email. If you want to remain anonymous, if you don't mind if people know, just feel free to write it in the chat here or go to our forums at bss.studio and write a topic there for us. But yeah.
Or you can send us an email.
Yep. Oh, I said that.
Did you
They want to remain anonymous.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Or you can send a message on Discord, I guess.
You can do that too.
Sometimes that gets through. So this one's from an anonymous person. It's titled "Anime Girlism," is how it was presented, and Princess is going to do the honors of reading it for us.
Thank you. I have had a problem that I've been struggling with for a while. Everyone thinks I act like an anime girl. Everyone thinks I speak like an anime girl. Everyone thinks I type like one, eat like one, live like one. And I do, but I don't know what to do. It's not like this has never happened before either. It's been like this my whole life, and I've never known how to act genuinely. People will always say, "Oh, you'd be amazing as an anime girl." My goodness, you're just like an anime girl. You're such an anime girl. It's terrible. Nobody sees me as a real person with a real purpose. At times, it leads me to believe that I will never have one. Not even my aunt understands. She'll see me acting like an anime girl and come up to me later and say that I'm acting cringe. I can't help it. I really can't. I can't. My dad doesn't understand either. He says the exact same thing, thinking that I'm just in a phase. I don't know how to get out of it. I've been on this earth for 13 years, and out of those 4,701 days, probably around 7,485 when this is read, I have never been able to act genuinely. Nobody understands. I don't even know why I'm still here, talking to you all. The fact that I sing at random doesn't help either. I kind of like to sing a bit too much, and people think that it just contributes to my anime girlism. Not even my hobbies are genuine, it seems. I hate my whole life because anime has entered it. Even then, I continue to draw it, sing songs from it, reference it, watch it. I know this is a problem not even Detective can solve, but I've submitted it anyways because it's been a problem for too long. Thank you for reading this. From Anonymous.
All right. Thank you for reading that, Princess, and also posting it. So yeah, this is a really interesting one. We've never had one like this before, which is exciting in a way, but also not exciting because that means it's a really particularly unique problem. So that doesn't make it easy. There aren't many people who struggle with this exact scenario, right? So there's not a whole lot to research or draw from, right? And I think that's part of what makes this so difficult is if you're experiencing this, there isn't too many resources you can rely upon to get out, you know? And so we are going to do our best here to attempt to provide some helpful resources, some helpful, I guess, perspectives and encouragement towards working this problem through. I can see this, maybe not in anime, but in other aspects of life. People don't tend to call it cringy, but you can see people getting obsessed or being heavily influenced by many things. There's many cultures out there, and those cultures well up in people, and they just start to act that way. And I've seen that in many different fields outside of anime. Anime, however, is considered cringy when you do it, just because it tends to be an overaction or about certain things that people haven't found culturally acceptable yet. If you're in Japan, they might not worry too much about you. They might think you're a little weird, but that's about it. But in America, especially, it can be a struggle if the culture is impacting the way that you act and the way people see you. So like a weird example is like NASCAR or I guess rednecks. That's an example of a culture where some people find it cringy. Most people don't because we've gotten used to it. That sort of thing. But yeah, they act a certain way, and it's just a natural cause of what they consume on a daily basis, or how they've grown up, who they've grown up with, or their what has impacted them since early childhood. Sometimes we overlook our early childhood experiences, like when we're 2, 3, 4, and how much they shape us into how we treat others and how we treat the world and how we see it. But anyways, I hope that we do a good job in tackling this really particularly unique struggle that you're going through. And with that, let me get over to Joe and see what he's got to say.
I've got things to say. That's why I have a microphone in front of me.
Granted.
Hey, Anonymous, I feel you. It can be weird when you act in a certain way that might be, like, as Ryan just described so beautifully, might not be culturally accepted yet. But, like he also was bringing forward, and I would like to just, repeat this, is that, a lot of times people just get into something and they start to act accordingly. Like, there are people who watch a lot of political news and they start to act all political news-ish, right? And
they know everything.
Yep, absolutely.
I've been there. That's how I know.
There are people that get into celebrity gossip, and they start to get into all that. There are people that get like heavily into sports, and like get into that. I'm a musician, I mean, and so I was heavily into music and the arts and stuff like that. And um so and it kind of does rub off on our personality to some degree. Now sometimes we can go into the extreme, and it happens to most of us, I think. So I don't think you're unique necessarily in that regard. That maybe something has kind of come into your life and affected it, more so than others might think appropriate for whatever reason. But at any rate, the key thing to remember is this isn't your identity. A lot of times we will make an observation about someone and we will say, "Oh man, they're a sports nut," and so then they might take they might take that and turn it into their identity. And so then all of a sudden, then it might actually make them more of a sports nut. And so then they start, being more and more, because they have an identity attached to them, and they feel like they need to live up to that. And so they need to go even more in that direction. And I've seen that happen, and I've been that way as well in the arts and in music. And people, even my friends, they're like, friends I knew from way back when I was in middle school and high school, they're like, Joe is like synonymous with music, like musician, like that's what he does. Like, I mean, and that's who he is and everything like that. And it took me a while to understand this, but that's not who I am. It's part of my experience, but it's not who I am. It doesn't tell me who I am or what I am. It just is a part of my life, and a big part of my life, and that's okay. And in this case, anime, it sounds like anime is a pretty big part of your life, and that's okay. I love how you said, you go around singing a bunch, and it reminds me of my wife, because she's into like show tunes and stuff like that, and musicals and all that, so her life is a musical, and so she'll just walk around and turn everything into a song, or start singing some show tune from some play or some musical that she was a choreographer for, or was in, or whatever, and that's just kind of what she does. And it kind of adds a little bit to the flavors of life, it's a richness added to life in that regard. And it's interesting because there are people that will look at somebody who does something a little bit differently, and they won't like it because it doesn't conform to the normal way that things are done. Like, you're supposed to be a certain way, and if you don't line up between these brackets, then you've got a problem, and whatever. But that, I look at people all across this spectrum of different, they like different things, they're into different things, and they know stuff about stuff. You can just ask them, right? I mean, I've never been into NASCAR. I've never understood NASCAR very much. Like, okay, so we're watching people drive, and that's cool, I guess. I mean, all right. But then there are people that they get into it, man, and then they talk about how great it is, and they got all the memorabilia, and they go down and they want to get a big old camper and park it in the infield while the cars drive around them and stuff, and they want to sit on the roof of it, and all that kind of stuff, and have the big old hat with the two cans and the thing and whatever, and
drink cap.
Yeah, that one. and so, but people get into stuff, and that's okay. If there's nothing going on that's evil or sinful, I mean, I guess it just kind of adds to the richness that life is. And you mentioned in your post here that your dad thinks it's maybe a phase you're going through, and that's possible. I've been through many phases myself. And, one of the things is a lot of times with a phase, it just kind of runs its course and goes and stops and whatever, and it's okay. But this just adds a little bit of flair to the world around you, I think. And it's okay. I know other people might not appreciate it. They might not appreciate anime the way you do. Who knows? I don't know. But at any rate, it's okay. And if it's starting to be bothersome to you, like if the fact that you act this way is starting to be bothersome, then you can take steps to reduce the amount of the influence. The influence in this case would probably be the anime, and you can take steps to reduce it, and then maybe that'll help to move past this phase. But if the only issue is that other people don't understand, let me tell you, there is a whole world of people that are way into anime. Right, Ryan?
That's true.
Like,
there's a lot of people.
It is huge. Huge, huge, huge. And there are a lot of people who have made great livings and great careers in the anime industry. Whether as an artist or a voice actor or a voice actress or a singer or a writer or a producer or who knows, there's all kinds of different things that you can do to be involved in that world, and you can make a great life out of it. So I should say you can make a great living out of it, and it'll be okay. But the thing to remember is always remember this experience that you're having, this anime girlism experience. It's not who you are. It's just a part of your life. But who you are is much deeper. Who you are is much richer and goes much farther than just the surface level label of anime girl. You are a wondrous creation. And there are things that you are going to find out about yourself as you grow and get older that just amaze you. You're going to be like, what? I'm like that? Okay, I guess I'm like that. And then you might decide, well, that's not very much a good thing. And so then you might come across some people that can help you, fix it or get better at it or whatever. And, and you can grow and change and adapt. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But always remember, this anime girl label and the behaviors that go along with it, they don't define who you are. It's just a part of what you're going through. And it's okay. So that's all I have to start. Ryan, what do you have?
Sure. This might not help you entirely. By the way, what Joe said was fantastic, and I 100% agree with it. Makes a lot of sense. And I really like what he said about kind of how this is a flavor that adds to life. I think that's so true. In life, people say, the world's not black and white. It's gray. No, they don't. It's not black and white. It's full of many colors. And I would say absolutely. But just because it's full of many colors doesn't mean that black and white don't exist. That's always important to remember.
Yes.
There's so many times where that needs to be said. People will tell you all the time, world's not black and white, world's not black and white. It's full of many colors. But then they say that to exclude the idea that black and white even exist. And they just throw out those ideas. They're like, oh, there is no black, there is no white. There's just a bunch of colors that are not black or white. And I would say, no, black and white are still part of those colors, and you have to keep that in mind. But here's the thing. The way I see the world, you have black, and then you have white, which encompasses all the colors. Pretty much. Um, you know, because the thing is, your life experience is a beautiful thing, right? And if you're religious, like I am, and you believe that God is with you, God is with you through all those choices that you make. And God gets to experience those beautiful choices that you make. So when you choose to eat Chex cereal in the morning instead of Cocoa Pebbles, God gets to experience that choice with you. Neither of those actions was wrong, right?
Don't worry, Wednesday is not sponsored by General Mills cereal.
Thank you. If you choose to add Mountain Dew instead of milk to your cereal in the morning, it isn't a sinful, it might be a mistake, but it isn't sinful, right? And God gets to experience those choices with you, and he is glad to be a part of your life because he loves you. Just as someone that you love dearly, you love to experience their life, right? So keep that in mind when you're going through your life and you're attracted to certain things, as long as they're not sinful, right? They could be any color, but they pretty much just fall under white because you get to choose to enjoy that, for example, certain media. It could be a type of music. It could be a type of animation, a certain kind of storytelling. It can be anything. It could be music that is slow. It could be music that is fast. It doesn't matter, right? And that's the beauty of life, is that we have all these flavors we can choose from, right? And just because other people don't appreciate it, or just because other people don't like it, or other people might find it weird or cringy, doesn't make it bad, right? That's just a cultural understanding, or rather misunderstanding. For example, I used to heavily dislike all sorts of things. I entirely dismissed genres of music because they were popular, and I thought that popular stuff was bad.
Just
But
because it was
along
popular.
the way, yeah, just because it was popular. So I disliked a lot of music. But along the way, I started to correct myself, because why would I choose to dislike something when I could enjoy it? Why not just enjoy it? And then through listening to that music, I started to learn more about music and enjoy more about music. And then that's true for other fields like vehicles. I don't care about vehicles, but I know a lot of people who do. They're really into it. And it's great to be able to listen to people who can go on and on about vehicles and tell me all sorts of different things, and I can learn from them. It's a beautiful thing. And they can share their stories with me. And that's so cool. But if I chose to just be off about it, like, no, you're into cars, no, that's super cringy, which I used to think it was. Like, I'm not joking. I used to cringe when people would talk about automobiles. And because I'm just like, what are you, like, how can you get into that? There's something wrong in your head. You know? That's how I used to think about it. So my point is kind of the point that Joe was making still. And that is, it's a part of life that you get to experience. Some people are going to enjoy it. Some people aren't. Some people are going to be able to benefit from your enjoyment. Some people aren't. And if they don't, that's on them. It's not your fault. It's actually their fault that they don't enjoy it, because it's in their head that it isn't okay when it really is. That's all my friends when I rant about Clover. Clover is an anime. It's actually pretty good. So is it weird that I don't like cereal with milk? No,
Nope,
it's not weird at
that's
all.
not
I eat my
weird.
cereal with yogurt. Actually, the reason I switched to yogurt is because I'm lactose intolerant to a very small degree. And when milk absorbs into the cereal, my body can't digest it. So if it's yogurt, they don't get stuck into each other, and my body has no problem digesting it. So I switched over to yogurt, and I'm glad I did because it's way better, anyways.
Mm.
um, but anyways, so what I want to say is, don't be ashamed of what you find enjoyable, and don't be ashamed if other people look at you and look down on you because you enjoy it, because ultimately it's their loss. They're the ones that are wrong, because you should honestly, and this is something I should do more, or should uphold. You shouldn't look down on anything unless it's a sin, because everything that isn't can be part of the flavor of life, and that adds to the beauty of life. And God is that beauty that spreads throughout the world. Everything that is beautiful is a shadow of a figure of God. And if we look at something that's beautiful and we call it ugly just because our mind is made up, that's wrong. We shouldn't do that. So if you are in a position where you are feeling pressured because other people dislike the way that you act or dislike what you like, I would say, if you're not being sinful, then they're logically incorrect, or they're morally incorrect. Even though they're not necessarily sinning, it's just, I think you understand what I'm saying. So my point is, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of any of that. It's just what happens. I was gonna say, your personality. I'm going to guess, because I'm not sure. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with you. But your personality would be is probably outgoing. You're probably the kind of person that's really expressive, right? Now, a lot of people who get into anime as much as you do are reserved. I will be honest about that. I think most people who get into media like anime really intensely, they tend to be reserved. And the people who are outgoing, they look really cringy to everybody else because they're acting out their enjoyment. They're acting out the culture which has shifted their headspace. And because they're acting that out, it looks cringy to everybody else, including people who are into anime, but they're reserved. But that's not wrong, right? It's likely that you're just an outgoing person. So you're expressive about your enjoyment. You're expressive about what kind of things you take in. And I think that's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. In fact, there are many parts of that personality that I wish I had more. It's we all have different personalities, right? And in those we have strengths and weaknesses, and we can tame the weaknesses and make the strengths stronger. And we can learn from other personalities and adapt the way that they handle things and start to try to shape ourselves into the person that we want to be, right? Ultimately, I think the question falls on this: what do you want to be? Where do you want to take your life? Who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? If you want to escape from not from how people see you, because that doesn't matter. If you want to escape from how you're acting, though, because you don't like it, because you genuinely dislike it, not because it doesn't seem like you do dislike it, but maybe you do. If you genuinely dislike the certain things that you do, then you can start working towards changing that. But it's a hard process. It takes some time, takes some focus, but it's 100% doable. And it's being strict on yourself. It's watching yourself and trying to act and emulate the person that you want to be. Trying to act like the person you want to be. Pretend you're the person. That's it. Pretend you're the person you want to be. Act like that person. And that's who you'll become over time. And how you act or how you see the world, right? That's all you got to do. It's not easy because you have to force yourself to do things and put yourself in environments where everyone's looking at you and you're not doing the things that you normally do, so you feel super weird. But if you do that, you will see a change over time, and you will surprise yourself, and you will be proud of yourself, because it takes a lot of guts to do that. But if you're okay with how you are, then the thing you need to get over is not how you act or what you enjoy, but how you worry about what other people think. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to worry about what other people think. You don't have to worry if people think you're cringy or not. Because who are they to judge? Honestly. They're just as human as you are. We're all weird.
Mm-hmm.
We all got weirdness inside of us. We all do cringy things that some people could call cringy. Some people wouldn't. Some people would get ecstatic that we did it. Like, oh my gosh, you just did that. You know, that's so cool. And other people would be like, that's the cringiest thing I've ever seen. People are of many flavors.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how people see you in the world. What matters more is how you see yourself. Why? Because if you worry about how other people see you, you're never going to be happy. And it's sad,
Mm-hmm.
but it's true. Because ultimately what you're saying is, I'm relying on other people to determine how I feel about myself. I'm relying on other people ultimately to make me happy. Because what they think of me is important, and how they think about me changes how I think about myself. And if they aren't happy with me, then I'm not happy with myself. And so the problem with that is, you will only ever be happy in life if it's someone else's doing.
Mm.
And most people aren't out to make you happy. Your dad loves you dearly, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't his responsibility to make you happy, because ultimately he's not in full control of that. Because at any point in time, even if he accepts you and makes you feel like you're doing everything right, maybe another family member or a friend might look at you like you're doing something wrong, and then you won't be happy anymore. He alone can't make you happy. Unfortunately, it's true, and a lot of people live their lives that way. And I lived my life feeling only happy when other people were happy with me, and feeling down when people weren't. I lived my life like that for like almost like 18 years.
Mm.
And it didn't work out for me.
That's a long
When
time.
I discovered that it was my responsibility and my choice to make me happy, and that what other people think of me, if I rely on other people and their thoughts to make me happy, I'm never going to be happy, because they're not thinking, hey, I need to make that person happy all the time. They're trying to make themselves happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned eventually to try to get over that, to try to get over what other people think, and not worry if they think I'm crazy or cringy. In fact, in order to get over it, I started to do things in public which were intentionally embarrassing. I would pretend to fall, or I would grab someone's hand in the middle of a crowd and ask them to marry me. Like, I would do really weird things. And it was it was pretty weird, right? But it was embarrassing enough that I learned to be embarrassed and not worry about it, because I knew I could. I've been embarrassed before, and now I forced myself to be embarrassed. And you know what? Tomorrow's gonna come, and the next day's gonna come after that, and it doesn't matter. What I've proven is I can get over it, and I can move on with my life, even if an embarrassing thing happens. It doesn't matter what people think of me, because they're not the reliable ones when it comes to happiness. They aren't the people that I can rely on when it comes to moving my arm. It's only me. So I can't put that on them. I can't put that responsibility on them. It's not their fault that I'm unhappy or happy. It's not their fault. And it's not their responsibility. To put it on them is kind of rude, and saying, hey, you're in control of my happiness from now on. It's like, wow, that's a lot of weight. Yeah. And if you do that to everybody in the world, yeah, unfortunately, it just doesn't work. I've tried it. But anyways, I know I've talked for quite a long time. And I hope my point was made eloquently enough, and it made sense to maybe steer you in a good direction. But that's what I got. So, Joe, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I love what you were getting at with the it's not other people's job to make us happy. And you're right. It is kind of to expect that from the people around us that they're going to make us happy. That's putting a burden on them that's unjust for them, right? That's not something that they're supposed to have to deal with. But one of the things also is like we can flip that around, and that's wrong too, where if we feel bad when somebody looks down on us about something, it's because we think that what we're supposed to be doing is making them happy,
Yes, it could go that way too.
you know? And so it's like, well, like they're making fun of me, or they're, deriding me, or they're, dismissing me or whatever, because of the way I'm acting right now. And like I feel bad about this because like I feel like I should be making them happy. It's not your job to make them happy either. They don't have to be happy with, you or whatever. Like
I
I
will
had to
say
learn this.
it's your privilege. It's your privilege to be able to attempt to make someone happy,
Sure,
but
sure.
it's not your responsibility
Right, right.
'cause you can't.
It's your privilege to try and be able to help.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And to try to assist. I mean, we're kind of here to do that. We're here to help each other out. That's kind of why um, you know, that's why any business exists. A lot of times businesses get a bad rap because, a lot of times managers get in there and get all money hungry, and then they get all grubby and, do weird, unethical things in pursuit of, the bottom line. But, a business in its origin is all about providing something that other people can use that will improve their lives. That's what it is. And if it didn't do that, then the business doesn't last very long. It's like religions. Religions all have some form of truth, or else they don't last. Right? So all the religions that have lasted, there is truth in there. And we can find it and we can relate to it, right? For sure. And but for us to so yes, to serve other people and to attempt to help them, that's a beautiful, noble thing. But to take the responsibility for their happiness, or if they're upset, to be shouldered with the blame 100% for that, I mean, that's not fair either. It took me a long time to learn that. I'm not here to make other people happy. That's their job, right? And it's funny because the more I would try to make, my wife and I went through something, we went through some stuff for a long time. And, I remember like I would just try to make her happy, trying and trying and trying. Everything I did was like, okay, is she going to be happy? Like trying, trying, trying. And what's interesting is no matter how hard I tried, it just got worse. And things started to turn around when I realized it's not my job to make her happy. It's my job to do what's right and to try and do what's right for our family. Yes. And sometimes that's not going to make anybody happy, including myself. Right? Because sometimes you just got to go through some hard stuff, right? But yeah, so when we can take that burden off of ourselves, it's not our job to conform to what everybody's expectation of us is. And sometimes the more we conform to that expectation, the more it's expected. And we can drive ourselves into a trap. And we start living a different life than the one we want to live. And then we get trapped in that life. And then to undo that is a much bigger and harder deal than it was before. So we have to be a little bit careful and just understand, at the underlying all of this is the fact that you are you and you are beautiful. No matter what. No matter what comes your way, if you are an anime girl for right now, and then maybe you get into NASCAR, or maybe you get into football, or maybe you get into basketball, or maybe, who knows, maybe you get into water polo or something, who knows?
Super soakers.
Super soakers. Yeah, absolutely.
Nerf.
Yep. Bottle rockets, whatever.
Yeah, astronaut engineering.
There could be any plethora of thing. I read this quote from Albert Einstein, and I'm probably not gonna actually get the quote right, but
Foam forming.
the gist of it was, what's that?
I said foam forming. I just wanted to come up with one that was obscure enough that no one would be into it.
Foam forming. There we go. Albert Einstein said, "We're all geniuses. The problem is we judge a fish based on its ability to climb a tree."
I like that. My favorite part about that quote is that Einstein refers to himself as a fish climbing a tree.
Yeah, because he
'Cause
was
he's the
seen
genius.
as what's that?
Because he's considered a genius.
He is considered a genius, but all of his teachers thought he was an idiot.
Yes, because he was a fish trying to climb a tree.
Right, because they were grading him based on his tree climbing ability, and he was a fish, right?
Yeah.
And then here he comes with, theorems that change the face of the world, incredible.
And they continue to.
Continue to,
Which is
yes,
incredible.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, but that's the thing, we're all different. However, there's genius in all of us. You might look at the mechanic down the street and think, he's just got a basic little job, whatever, and he's covered with grease all day or whatever. I'll tell you what, one of the most genius people I ever met was a transmission mechanic. I remember talking to him one day, and he was all covered in grease and oil and dirt and stuff, and he was picking up his son from trombone lessons at the music store I was working at or whatever. And, and I ended up seeing him out there and striking up a conversation with him for a few minutes. And then I ended up taking my car to their shop to be repaired. And I learned, like, this guy started talking transmissions, and you could tell, like, he was into car transmissions. Like, that was his thing that he was into, like, whacked out into it. But man, he did excellent work because of that knowledge, right? So if we immerse ourselves into something, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because then that puts us in a position of being a game changer in that industry or in that area. Like, we can be one of the shining lights in that. So maybe the fact that you're way into anime right now, maybe that means you're supposed to go in that direction and you're supposed to do something revolutionary in that industry. Maybe. Or maybe it's a phase. We don't know.
You'll find out.
You will find out. And no matter what, you are not that. You are you. And this is just stuff that you get to experience throughout your life. And it just adds to, like Ryan said, the flavors. The wondrous flavors. Cereal and yogurt. Never tried it. Not all
Have you ever had a
excited to.
parfait?
Nope.
You've never had a parfait?
Never had a parfait.
Everybody loves parfaits.
Everybody likes parfaits. Parfaits have layers. I know.
Yeah.
Never
What?
had
You've
'em.
never had a parfait? That
Never had a
actually
parfait.
is really surprising. How many times have I been at a hotel with you and there have been parfaits there and you didn't grab one? Oh my gosh, I should have given you one. I should have
Never
been
had
like,
a
Joe,
parfait.
this is for you. And now the problem is they'll never probably have one because the lactose intolerance.
That's right. That's right. That's
Unless
all
you
right.
eat
That's
one
all
of
right.
those
But
pills.
speaking of hotels, one more example before we, close this one down. We went to a convention, and Ryan and I were at a business convention, right? And so everybody was wearing suits. And it was really, really cold. It was January. And just so happened that in the hotel, I don't think it was the hotel we were staying at, but it was one of the ones like real close by. There were a bunch of hotels all in this downtown area. I think it was Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And there was an anime con. I think it was probably Ohio Con, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Going
It
on
was.
that same
Mhm.
weekend.
OhioCon, yep.
And so in one arena, you've got all these people in business suits, right? Suits and ties and business and all that kind of stuff. And then in this place next door, this convention center next door, you've got all these cosplay people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all intermingling and going in and out of the different hotels together and everything. And we're all looking at each other funny. It's
Yeah,
like-
they're looking at us funny. We're looking at them funny. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Except for me, I was in my element in both
Yeah,
places.
you were just like, hey,
I was
whatever,
like-
man. Yeah.
And yeah, this is great.
Yep. So, but it was so cool to see, that's just variety. People are into different stuff. And the danger is that we look upon another person and we judge them. That's dangerous. Because just because somebody does a certain thing or acts a certain way, that doesn't necessarily tell you who that person is deep down. It might give you some indicators. But they might be stuck doing something they don't want to be doing. Or maybe they're in a messed up spot. Who knows? But just because you look at something on the surface, it doesn't necessarily tell you about their character, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And every single one of us has beauty within us. So anyway, that's what I got. Ryan,
Awesome.
take it away
Well,
from
thanks,
me.
Joe. And thank you, Anonymous, for submitting this topic. I think it was a pretty good topic, and I hope that that our response was helpful, and that it will be helpful, and that's something that you can carry into the future with you, and tackle this however you want, one step at a time. Don't expect everything to change all at once. That's the way it never works. But if you want things to change, it's just one step at a time. One little thing. What's the first thing you can do? And you just start taking that step. So anyways, thank you so much for honoring us and I guess believing in us that we might have something good to say, and giving us the time. But yeah,
Everybody likes parfaits.
yeah. So we love you, Anonymous. We know who you are, and we greatly appreciate you. And with that, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to run through the list real quick. I think it looks like Vanna V is going to be our next one, since they're with us today. But we've got Sevlev, SK, Awkward Pika, Jesse, Khan Vulcan, Amira, Random, Ian Lam, Vanna V, I mean, Baka, Helmarock Hero, and Pear. And if you are here, drop a message in that chat so that we know that you're here.
Did you also say Baka?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, did I not? Yeah, I did. Yeah, Baka is on here twice, so I said the first one, but not the second one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's Vanna V?
Yeah, Vanna V is the first on the list for us, so they're the oldest on the line.
Vanna
Posted
V.
February 17th.
I'm so sorry. It's actually pronounced Vanna V.
Oh, is it Vanna V?
Vanna V.
Okay.
Va.
Vanna V. Okay.
Unless
so I
V-A-H
was right. Okay.
means va, but I think that means va.
Well, V-A-N could be Van, but
Right. But
if there's
Vanna.
V-A-N-N-A, it's Vanna.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go. Vanna
Thank
V.
you. Thank you. I stand corrected.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. That way we can say it right from now on.
You know what I didn't do last time?
What's that?
I didn't do the link verification from Princess.
Oh, sure.
I was slipping.
Huh?
There. I did it.
Well, you just keep on slipping there, buddy. You keep
I
on
did
slipping
it.
into that future.
I did it this time. What?
Ba, 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 da. Woo keeps on slipping.
Into the future.
Is that Steve Miller?
That is Steve Miller Band.
Yeah, they're good. They're real good.
Yes.
All right. So let's jump into this. This is from Vanavi. It's titled Chronically Planning Ahead. Interesting title. Princess is going to do the honors of reading it for us. Thank you.
You are very welcome. I have a habit of planning way far into the future. I know that planning ahead can be a good skill, but I will spend hours planning my college path in life when I'm only 14 and have high school homework that's incomplete. I just want to set myself up for success and give me an easy ish life. But it takes time away from the steps that it would actually take to get there. I spend time doing extracurriculars and building a diverse and well rounded resume so that I have a good chance of acceptance into colleges and even more time on the actual grades. I often find motivation in thinking of how to get these grades is helping me in the future and helping me to prepare for college instead of thinking on just surviving them in the now. I don't really have a topic that's an issue or something I need help with. I was just wondering if my priorities should be elsewhere, even if it's not harming me. From Vanavi.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanavi. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
I'd love to hear from you. It's kind of an interesting thing. I think it's super important to look into the future. In fact, many times it can be far more appropriate to be future oriented than it can be to be present oriented. And what I mean by that is to understand where we're going is more important sometimes than just going.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, if like there's a saying, and I can't remember, maybe Joe remembers it, but it's something along the lines of if you don't make any plans for the future, you're going to end up completely like awry. So it's like, shoot, there's a quote. Do you remember the quote?
I think so. I think I'm trying to.
It's something like, if you don't make any plans, you're already there, or something.
Yeah, or if you don't
plan
have
for
a
success.
if you don't have a target, you're gonna hit it with amazing accuracy.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
You're gonna
There's
hit
a
nothing basically.
yeah, there's a great quote there, and I can't read for the life of me right now. I just cannot come up with it. But it's basically that. If you don't have a plan for life, then you're just gonna go wherever life takes you, and that's fine. But you're never going to achieve anything that you've planned because you've never planned anything to achieve.
Mhm.
And so you might find your life a little unexciting, or more likely too exciting. And what I mean by that is a little too stressful, a little too not to your comfort, not what you really wanted. And I think a lot of people end up in that boat. Lots of people end up in that boat of I'm where I'm at in life and I hate it and I don't want to be here.
Mm.
And it's like, you've been alive 70 years. What have you planned for and what have you done to achieve that plan? And it's like, well, I didn't. It's like, there you go. Why don't you plan something for the next year? Yeah, you might be 70, but hey, life is still going.
Mhm.
But that out of the way, the fact that planning for the future is fantastic. I think it's a balancing act, right? You also want to be able to live in the present and to take steps in the present without getting carried away in your imagination. You want your future to fuel your fire and give you a direction, but not to not to subdue your ability to actually act in the here and now, because that's obviously not going to get anywhere if you don't. So I think there's a balance, and it seems like you've kind of gotten it with all those like I can't speak. Curricular activities.
There you go. Good job.
Thank you, tongue. You did it. And brain. All right. So anyways, I'm just stalling. All right, I'm gonna give Joe the floor and let him do the talking. Take it away, Joe.
The floor. I
Yeah, the
own
floor
the
is yours.
whole floor.
Yeah, you own the floor that even Vanavi is currently sitting upon with her chair
Whoa. All right. Well.
or bed or comfort unit of any sort.
Yes.
Beanie bag.
Nice. Maybe an
Obscure item
inflatable.
in the
Maybe one of
room that
those
doesn't belong there, but you're sitting on it.
inflatable chair thingies. You know those things, the inflatables. Those are good
A
too.
lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Take it away.
At any rate, well, Ryan, thank you so much. And you're absolutely right that you got to do both. It's good. It's good that you're planning your college path. It's good that you're planning how you want things to look. It's good, to take time and visualize that and to write it down is hugely important. Now, I would recommend writing it down because then it's written down. And you don't have to spend a whole lot of time thinking about it as much. You've got it written down. It's there. You can look at it once in a while. You can make modifications to it if you need to, but so you can take regular time to look at it, but then get back to the business at hand, the here and the now where life is, right? I have a quote written up on my board that says, to live your dreams is to work constantly in their arena.
Mm.
That's living your dreams, is to just work there, right? To achieve is momentary. That's just like a one-time thing. You have an achievement, boom, it's done. And it's fleeting. And so it's overrated, really. So like we highlight these achievers and they're there, man. I remember, man, I'd walk through the room and like the TV'd be on and they'd be talking about the Grammys. It was like, man, it's like all the shows are paid for. Like everybody's sponsored by the Grammys these days, right? Like that's the thing. And so it's like big deal. And I'm like, okay, so these people, and we should celebrate people's achievements and accomplishments. Absolutely. But you know what gets to that achievement and accomplishment is these people are living their dream by working constantly at their craft. Right? And so, like Ryan was saying, the extracurriculars that you're doing, when you're there working at it. When I was at swim practice, I was swimming. I promise. Because if we stopped, the coach would come over and yell at us. It's really easy to see if someone's not swimming in the pool, right?
That's pretty easy to see, yeah. I mean, you might be able to fake that you're playing basketball or something. You can't fake that you're swimming.
Yeah, you can't fake that.
When you're standing outside the pool.
Or you're standing at the end of the pool. Now, you might be able to fake that you're sick, like you don't feel good and so you can't go on or whatever. You might be able to fake that if you just don't feel like doing it. But, but when you're doing something, be there. Be at it. But then also take time. A lot of times I will take time at the beginning of every day, and I try to remember at the end of every day too, to just go through my goals. I look at what I'm shooting at. Short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. And I look at them. And I think to myself, okay, what's it going to be like when I get there? How's that going to be? Oh, man, that's going to be so cool. And I try and get it to the point where I feel the little butterflies starting to, flap their wings in my stomach, and it's just like, ooh, you get a little bit exciting, where you're like, oh man, getting that would be so cool, or getting to that point and releasing that album, or, whatever. It's going to be really cool. And I imagine what it's going to be like to be there. And then I try to think to myself, okay, how's it going to affect the people around me? That's another thing. And then, most importantly, I think, what can I do right now to move in that direction? Or what can I put on my to-do list for tomorrow? Like if it's at night before I go to bed, then I'm not giving myself stuff to do right before I go to bed, but I'm just thinking, okay, what can I put on my list to do tomorrow? Because when we're getting ready for bed, sometimes our mind's in that interesting, we're kind of starting to pass our conscious mind over to our subconscious mind. And so like there's an interesting exchange happening there. And so it's a great time to come up with ideas that might seem off the wall, of something that we can be doing, and it's like, oh yeah, that actually would help move me in that direction. And so then I put that on my list for the next day, and then, then I can go through it. But I take time in the morning and in the evening to do that. Definitely every morning. Sometimes I fail at it in the evenings, to be honest, but either way. But then throughout the day, I don't spend a whole lot of time looking at my goals. I'm mostly doing the things that I put on my list that are going to take me there. And I focus on those. And part of it is because I've attached these tasks to those goals, I have that motivation to continue doing it. I love how you're saying, I often find motivation in thinking about how getting these grades is helping me in the future and helping to prepare for college instead of
Right.
thinking about just surviving them in the now. That is super important because what you've done is you've attached the tasks at hand to something greater, which means you're going to do better at those tasks. And you're gonna tap into more motivation, just like you're finding here, and that's a hugely important thing to do. So, but yeah, I think the most important thing you can do though, rather than continuing to take all your productive time in thought, thinking about what you're going to do, spend some time there, spend a few minutes there every day. Write it down and then look at it, think, okay, what's going to help me get there? And then you've got your things. Maybe it's, like you actually, if your goal is to have a good chance at being accepted into college, then yes, you're doing it right. You're spending time doing extracurriculars. I'm messing up on that word too. And also working on getting good grades. Those things are going to help you get into college for sure. You're going to be able to pick which college you want. Now the question is, why do you want to go to college? What do you want to go to college for? Is the next question to ask yourself. Okay, so what path does college take you on? And that's something to figure out next. It's like, okay, and maybe, that's thinking down the road. Well, you're 14. So I like to think 10 years down the road for like my long-term goals. And, maybe a year or two for my medium-term goals. And then like next month or next week for my short-term goals, right? So stuff I can hit like right now for my short-term stuff. But then also there are those far off ones where I'm like, okay, yes, that's going to be awesome. And you know what's interesting? I find that my long-term goals are going to be built on me hitting my short-term goals. Does that make sense? Like, I look at my short-term goals and I'm like, wait a second, this is actually a step on my way to that long-term goal. So then that's broken down into steps. And then I break the short-term goal down into the tasks I need to do that. And now what I have is a step-by-step formula in order to get there, which is pretty cool. Now, I've had to adjust. I've had to change directions. I've had to do all kinds of things in the course of that because you might think, okay, this is going to take me there. And then you find out, wait, maybe it's taking me there, but it's adding a whole lot of extra nonsense to my plate. I need to modify this or whatever, right? So, but I think you're doing it right. The only question I would ask is the one thing that I look at is if you spend hours a day planning your college path and your life, that seems like it might be a little bit overkill on the planning. Planning is essential. You need to have a plan for sure in order to do anything, whether it's college, whether it's inventing something, whether it's writing a song. There has to be some kind of a plan involved. But we can get too caught up in planning and then forget to get to work. And then nothing happens. If all we do is spend time thinking about it and we don't ever work at it, then we never get there either. So Ryan's right. It does take both. And in mentioning Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to him. So, Ryan?
Awesome.
You've
Well,
got
thanks,
the
Joe.
floor.
I've got the floor. Now I
You
own it.
got the
So
floor. You
now you're all
fall
stepping on my floor.
fall
What y'all
down on the
doing?
floor.
I want you all to stay quiet real quick because it's my turn to talk and it's my floor.
Yeah.
But type as much as you want or sing. I don't care. I can't hear you. So what I actually really like something you started out with, Joe, and you mentioned it in almost passing. Write it down. Though, for me, the most like effective way for me not getting too caught up in planning something out, because what happens is my brain starts thinking about it, and then in thinking about it, it starts to go down a line, and then it loops back to thinking about it again, and then it goes down that same line or a different line, and then it comes back, and it keeps on looping. And I'm sure you've experienced this too, where you start planning your future, you start planning out your day, you start planning anything, you start thinking about the things you need to do during the day, and it's all this stuff. And it just goes in loops, and it just doesn't stop, and you can't stop thinking about it, and it distracts you from even being able to do anything, including sleep. So this is what I recommend. Write it down. Here's the thing. As soon as you write it down on paper, your brain is satisfied. Your brain can stop the loops. This applies to lyrics as well. As someone who writes lyrics, I type the lyrics, right? I don't write them down, but I type them. If I'm sitting there, I can pace in my room for hours thinking about what's the next line, what melody, what do I want to say in this line, and how does it match the melody, and then how does the syllables, how do they line up with the beat, where do the emphases lie, and I think about all this kind of stuff when writing lyrics, right? And I'm caught up in that, and I just pace for like hours, and I can't get anything done, and my mind is creating all of these things, and sometimes my mind creates a really good one, but by the time I get back to the beginning, I've forgotten what was good about it. What I figured out is the most helpful thing is using that classic tool of writing it down. Instead of I'm like, okay, what are my ideas? All right, let's write my ideas down. This is what I want to portray. All right, now that little section of text is there, my brain can periodically move to the next step. So the next step is, all right, what's the melody? Okay, I've got the melody. So how do we, let's give an attempt at trying to get these to fit. And so I need word here, word here, word here, word here, word here. All right. And then I start writing out the words. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound good, but it's the idea. Right. And then I take that section and I leave it there and I create a new section where I refine it. And then I refine it again. And that process actually gets something done. So what happens with our brains is until we write something down, until we start action into a specific thing, our brain is going to continue to worry about it, and it's going to be really annoying. So when it's your future and you can't, you literally can't just make a decision like, yep, I'm in college now and I'm doing this. I'm in cosmetology. You don't get that choice. You can't just do that. So what you can do is you can write it down, and it will be on a piece of paper and it will be out of your head. Your brain will be satisfied and it doesn't have to think about it anymore. So you can, write a whole paragraph about it if that's what you need. But as long as you write it down, at least now you have a thing you can refer to at any point in time, right? To remember. But also your brain is satisfied to be able to let go of it and start doing the things that you need to get done here and now. So that is my best advice and recommendation, and one that Joe gave as well, and that is just write it down. So that's to help you from your brain to settle down. That's when you're getting carried away and you realize your brain has spent too much time thinking about stuff and planning ahead and you're going nowhere with it. That's the time to pick up the pen and paper and write it down.
Or
yeah,
you can pick up your electronic pocket device and you can hit the thing on whatever app you use, and you can hit the microphone and you can say it into there, and it'll type out some rendition of what you said. It might be what you said.
It might be what you said.
Or it might be similar to what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can put it in your phone, you can put it on your computer, you can put it on a piece of paper, whatever, just as long as you get it out into the world. Joe is so tight of it. Yeah. So I think it's one of those things
Yeah.
like your brain is wanting to do something. It wants to get something done, but it can't do anything in that category. So by writing it down, it satisfies the need to do something about it, right? Because you can't do something about getting into college here now other than continue to study and all that kind of stuff. But the idea is unsettling. And so if you write it down, you have actually done something to settle it. So um, action a lot of times can force an emotional reaction within us. And so I would just say, write it down. And I hope you start doing that because that's going to be really great. And also, what's really cool about that is you can come back to it. There are many times where you might have forgotten some of the things that you had made up that were super cool. I know that I have found pieces of paper lying around and I picked them up and I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote this forever ago. What did I write on it? And I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So it's good. Make sure that you write your things down. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is this. It's the other end of the issue. I don't know how well you deal with this, but I know a lot of people who are heavy planners and terrible at accepting when things don't go their way.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
I'm like that a lot.
Yeah, most people that plan stuff aren't able to get over it when as easily as those who don't when things don't go their way.
Preach.
Yeah.
I want to listen to this.
I am fortunate enough to be of the natural personality or working order where I don't need to plan. There are ups and downs with that, right? There are naturally ups and downs with that. But one of the major ups is that when things don't go my way, I'm just like, cool, let's ride. Where is this going to take us, right? That's actually the main reason why I wrote Life Might Take Us. Because we never know where this life might take us, but I get excited when there's a change in plan.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that that song portrays that perspective on people and that they can start acting like that. Because it doesn't matter when things don't go our way. What matters is how we handle the scenario. Right?
I mean,
that's the ultimate truth.
Were you pointing that song at me, Ryan?
No, it was actually somebody else.
Oh, okay.
But I won't say their name. And everybody of their personality, which isn't yours.
Which isn't mine?
Which isn't yours. No.
Okay.
And it's not your personality, so that probably narrows it down.
Yeah. Well, there's 15 other ones.
What doesn't matter is your plan. What matters is the outcome, right? Because you can have a plan to get from point A to point B. It doesn't matter if your plan falls apart, because those are just steps along the way. What matters is if you get to point B, right? So you say, okay, I'm at point A. I need to drive to point B. Oh no, my car broke down. Well, I can either do two things. I can sit here and whine about it and complain and do nothing. And then I never get to point B. Or I can walk and complain about it and whine, but at least I get to point B. Right? Or, yeah, I said two things. There's all sorts of different options. I can call somebody and tell them, hey, my car broke down. Will you pick me up? And then they help me get to point B. Right? Or, here's the thing that I like to do. I chuckle. I smile. I'm like, yeah, this happened. This is fantastic. What do I do? All right, I guess I'm walking. I am so awesome. Let's walk. And then I walk, right? Wouldn't you rather be happy about the fact that your car broke down? It stinks, right? Let's be honest. I've been there many times. But would you rather be upset or happy? course, we'd rather be happy. We like being happy. So when that moment happens to you, when your plan gets ruined, if your strategy falls apart, the point isn't to complain about the strategy. The point isn't to complain about the plan not working or God being against you or whatever. The point is still to get to point B. That's the point. So how do you get to point B in the best way possible? You have the best attitude about it. That's it. Get the best attitude you can. Pull yourself together, get the best attitude you can, and start walking to point B. However you can get there. Maybe you call a friend. Maybe you figure out an even better way. Maybe, I'll tell you. I'll tell you from personal experience, and Joe can attest to this, I'm sure. There are times when things fall apart like that. And you're like, oh, geez, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I guess I'll call my friend, or I'll call someone, a tow truck or whatever. And on that path, we encounter things that we only could have if our car broke down. And we're like, that was a moment that is dear to me. That is a moment where I feel like I was touched by the hand of God. Like, that was a moment where even though my car broke down and that stunk, everything that followed was really deep and beautiful. I wouldn't have had that conversation with that individual if my car didn't break down. And that conversation was good. That was a conversation I needed, or that was a conversation they needed. They needed me that day. And it's okay if my car has to be the expense for them getting a hold of me. When plans don't go your way, it's important to not get caught up in the fact that your plan didn't go your way. What's important is getting to point B and to experience what God has in store for you on that moment and on that day when things don't go your way. So if you are a type of person that likes to plan, you are likely, now I'm not saying you are, because maybe you've already figured this out in your head and you've got it down. And I totally think that you could, Manabe, because you're awesome. But if you're the kind of person that gets a little upset when things don't go in your way, when your plans fall apart, when you planned out all this stuff and then one thing comes in and it's like, yeah, you can't do that today because you have to go do this. And it's like, but I even paid to go to the theater or whatever. And it's like, now I can't do anything. And my plan is ruined. If you're the kind of person that gets upset in that moment, don't worry. A lot of people do. Try to take that moment and understand life. It is a very volatile thing. It is a thing that goes in all sorts of directions. But you bring the best you to whatever path that is. Because you can bring the worst path, you can bring the worst you along that path that isn't your plan, but you still have to go down that path. And that's going to stink because you don't like being with yourself when you're upset. No one likes being with themselves when they're upset, unless they feel really justified.
Yeah, I'm mad and I'm right.
I'm mad and I'm justified. All right. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But you don't want, like, you're forced, like, okay, I was going to go do this today. Like, I was going to go to the mall, but now I can't because I have to watch my baby sister. Something like that, right? You can sulk and be disappointed in everything and sit there with your sister. Or you can take that day and go, you know what? I'm going to turn a new leaf and just make my sister's day. I'm going to try to make this day awesome. Even though it wasn't my plan, I'm going to make this day fantastic. Because that's an incredible skill. And that's a skill that we can all learn. And it's all about your attitude. What are you going to choose to do when your plans go wrong? You got to make the best of it. Because what's the point of being sour? So just take that with you. So when things don't go in your way, you have the ability to shine light on the world, even still. Because here's the thing. Ultimately, what are you doing with your life? your life is a gift. Your life is an incredible gift which you give to the world. Every action, every word from your mouth, every breath that you take. Trees, plants, etc. Everything you have is a gift. What are you doing with your life, right? You're giving to the world. And we feel more fulfilled when we give than when we receive. Almost without, like, pretty much always. We know a lot of people who hoard things, and they hoard things because they think it's going to make them happy. And they find out, no, they just need more stuff. And then they need more stuff, and they're never fulfilled. Because receiving isn't fulfilling. It can be wonderful, it can be joyous, and we should be joyful when we receive, for sure. Be thankful and be joyful. But when we feel fulfilled is when we are being the gift. When we're applying ourselves, right? Whenever you are really applying yourself to something, you're putting your all into it, you almost forget the world. In those moments, you feel fulfilled. You are so fulfilled, you don't even have to worry about the rest of the world at that moment. And we only experience that by our talents, by what we have, by our personalities, by our heart, by using our minds, by using ourselves as a gift. Because all that we have is a gift, and we get to use that for the betterment of ourselves and the betterment of society, right? So when things don't go your way, that remains true. So when things don't go in your way, your life is still a gift. So where are you going to make it a gift in your new scenario? It wasn't what you planned, but it's still something you've got to be a part of now. So now you're doing this other thing that you didn't want to do, or you can't do something you did want to do. In that moment, you still have all of the potential. Nothing was taken from you in the order of giving. In fact, a lot of times you'll find when things don't go your way, the opportunities to give multiply beyond your wildest planning dreams. So when things don't go according to your plan, recognize that and use that moment to shed an abundance of life upon the world that only you were given the opportunity to at that moment. I hope that is encouraging, because I understand it can be a hard time, but I hope that repaints the picture of when plans don't go right, that it's an opportunity to shine in a more new and likely more brilliant way that that you wouldn't have had the chance to do if things had gone according to your plan. And that's especially true to your attitude. How are you going to take that day? Are you going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm awesome. What? I just did all of this without even complaining. I'm awesome. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes that's all you got. And that's pretty great too. You can be a gift to yourself in those moments. But anyways, and ultimately a gift to God in those moments, which is a beautiful thing that we could even conceive to and think that we could be a gift to God is incredible, but God allows it, and I appreciate that. So, yeah, that's what I got. Joe, do you have anything you want to add on to that?
Man, I got nothing that could follow that. That was beautiful.
All right.
Well said, my friend.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for a lot of us. So
it's hard to be as awesome as you. I know.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, whatever. Shut up. You're right. No. It's hard to be as awesome as me because you can only be as awesome as yourself, which is more awesome. And if you were to be as awesome as me, it'd be like going way down.
It'd be like,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard for you because you're too awesome for that. You're too awesome to be my low level of awesome.
Nice. No, hey, very well said. I don't, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, Vana V, I hope between Joe and I, we've instilled some wisdom, and that it will help you in your future planning and your getting things done in the present. I'm proud of you. It sounds like you got a lot of things together. It
do.
sounds like you don't need our help, but we're glad that you
we could use
give us
your
the
help
opportunity.
in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the topic. You are a lovely individual, and you are greatly appreciated. So yeah, thank you. We got time to do one more, maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Well, cool. Let's do one more.
Let's do one
Baka,
more.
you still here? You're right next in line. Baka? Baka?
Baka. Box.
Baka Breaker? The universe has
My
an
number
infinite
one
options for
tip.
every scenario.
Coffee. Yeah, coffee.
Yeah, what's up, Baka? What do you want? I've forgotten that I've initiated this conversation already.
That reminds me of the prank I always wanted to play for YouTube, like for YouTube videos. I always thought it'd be fun. I always thought it'd be fun to like be sitting in my car, at a stoplight or whatever, and then like a crosswalk or whatever, and then to like look and or it'd have to be a stop sign where I would have the option of going, or then the person crossing would have the option of going, and I wave them on. Come on.
And then you start moving forward.
And then they start going, and then I honk my horn at them when they're in front of the car.
That's so mean. Come on. And they're right in front, right in front of you.
Hey.
That's so mean.
It's so mean.
You would
but
never
it would
do
be
that.
hilarious. I would never do that. But I also thought it'd be
funny. It's an idea
funny.
to humor, not an idea to actually act out.
Right. I just imagined
Okay, I
seeing that.
believe you.
That's hilarious.
Sorry, princess. I've offended you.
No, I'm just.
And what can we say? Joe's actually kind of
I'm mean,
ruthless,
man. I used to. I also thought it'd be funny to have a video of like, I'm blowing snow or something.
Oh
But then I have the snowblower turned like toward me, so that it's like blowing the snow on.
So you're running the snowblower and it's like right into your face.
Yeah.
And when you look behind you, there is just a mess, and nothing good happened from that.
Well, you didn't do anything. You moved snow from there to there.
Depending if you can get the right speed with your snowblower, it's all the snow basically stays in the same spot.
Oh man. Anyway,
Awesome.
all right.
right, Baka.
Let's move on before I get myself in more trouble.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this one's from Baka. It's by the way, if you want to click on that link Princess posted, that'll take you right to it, and you can read along with us.
I will click on
It's
that link.
titled "A Panic to Start."
And then I'll post
Panic to start. Okay, that's how. Yeah.
No, this
A
was
panic to start.
a
They wanted
bursting
a
bubble.
a bursting bubble.
Oh, do you want the other one?
apologize.
Oh, we can do that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't notice that in the chat.
Yeah.
So this is
You would
like
have
I said,
noticed it
a
if you
panic
would
to
have
start,
clicked.
and we're not going to do that one. No, I'm
If
just
you would have
kidding.
clicked the link.
This is a bursting bubble.
Yes.
By Baka, and so I'm gonna give it over to Princess.
Hi. In my strive to make everyone around me to be happy and smile, I feel that I compress my inner securities. I find a few people within little time frames I can talk to about these emotions, yet I feel that I barely scratch the surface. I still hold back, letting the insecure emotions out because I feel like I already know the answer, but I never seem to be able to find it. These emotions I hold in feel like I'm shoving them into a balloon, and that balloon is about to pop. I'm mainly just worried that I'm going to have a mental breakdown. How do I release these insecurities without it completely breaking down? From Baka.
Mhm.
That is a fantastic question
Great
and a really
question.
important one.
Mhm.
I can see why you want us to do this one first. It's a little bit more urgent. Mental breakdowns. I'll tell you what, they stink. But, and they're really embarrassing too. Like they sting. But people will move on. If you have an emotional breakdown in front of someone, they will move on and forget about it eventually. And So just as a precaution, if you happen to have one, it's okay. The people around you will move on. So don't be too embarrassed. And also, the reason you're having an emotional breakdown is to ultimately release all of that. And obviously, you don't want to have that happen where you explode. But if you do, allow it to work for you, right? Because you can fight it. If you have an emotional breakdown, you can maul over it for weeks and be like, I can't believe I did that, and then hate yourself. Or you can do what it was trying to do. Like, your brain is doing that for you as a defense mechanism, as an active defense mechanism. So if you actually have a mental breakdown, allow it to work for you so that you can get over everything that you're trying to get over. And don't feel guilty about it. Okay? It just happens, and it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to break down. And I'm just prefacing all of this with that, so that you understand it's human and it's okay if it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And don't beat yourself up, if it does, because that would be doing the opposite of what it was trying to do for you. So allow it to work, and then just release it and move on and try to smile. But yeah, with that, I'm going to move it on to Joe. I'm sure he's got a lot of wisdom to add into this category. We're both reserved people. We both have a lot of time where we've spent taking all of our emotions and holding them inside. And that's kind of the nature of being our personalities. So, and that can happen for the other personality too. I'm not excluding that. Totally can. But I'm just saying we've naturally encountered this in our lives. So I'm sure Joe has a lot he can say that can help move you in a direction that helps release this pressurized hot air balloon that you've got steaming at the moment. Steaming, whatever, inflated. Go for it, Joe.
Well, yeah, I will second what Ryan said. I really appreciate you putting this topic out for us and for the rest of the group, because, like, I don't think you're the only person that deals with this. I think, and it takes a lot of guts to even just mention, hey, you know what? I'm getting to that point. Like, okay. and to have the courage to express that is a big deal, because when we have the habit of internalizing things and bottling things up, the very fact that you acknowledge that it's there is in itself a release of some kind. You're starting to relieve some pressure, right? And so that's a really, really good thing, and it's a great start. Now, here's an interesting thing. I can remember, Ryan talked about having an emotional breakdown. I've been there before. It wasn't pretty. I ended up having an emotional breakdown in college, my first year, and ended up moving back home and then going and seeing a therapist. And that was honestly about the best thing that I could have possibly done, is gone and spoken to a therapist. So that's one thing. If you start to feel like you're getting to that point where everything's going to fall apart, it might be good to find, maybe a guidance counselor or a community mental health professional or a psychologist or a psychiatrist even. There are options a lot of times, depending on where you live. There are options that are free or very inexpensive, and some will be covered by health insurance, some won't. Just there's a whole myriad, and it really depends on your own personal situation. But it's really just somebody to talk to that's not going to judge you, and that you can talk about these things that's going on, right? And that's really a key to a counselor. A counselor that gives lots of advice is not a very good counselor. You would think, okay, counsel, they're giving counsel, right? Which means they're giving advice, but that's no. In order to give good counsel, you have to know what you're giving counsel about. And the only way you can do that is listen for a long time. So a good if someone's called a good counselor and they don't spend much time listening, they're not a very good counselor. So, but that's really the key is, if you can find a counselor or some kind of a professional who's been trained in this area, a lot of times it's just somebody who's going to be able to listen to you. They're not going to judge you. They're going to be able to pinpoint, they're going to find things in what you say, and they're going to be like, there's a pattern starting here, and then they can guide you to the proper path, right? And that helped a lot for me to be able to do that. Now, fast forward a few years, a lot of years, and now I'm a property inspector, right? And I can remember this one incident. This was a few years ago. This was a while ago. Excuse me. There was this woman. I went to their house, and this was before COVID, so I was actually going to the door and dropping off door cards and all this kind of stuff, right? And I did that. I dropped off the door card. Her dog freaked out at me, was barking through the window at me, like all this kind of stuff, like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa, that's a crazy dog. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm walking back to my car, and this dog's going crazy, and then all of a sudden I hear the door open. And I'm like, oh no, like the dog found a way to open the door and it's going to chase me, right? And so I turn around and I see like these eyes that looked like the devil. And, and I was like, oh my gosh. This lady was ticked, man. She was so mad. And she just started laying into me. This is harassment. Blah, 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 like just going crazy at me, yelling and screaming and swearing and all kinds of stuff, right? And I just kind of stood there. At first, I was really stunned. I was kind of just like, whoa. And I'm just standing there, and I'm like, I want to run away. I want to get in my car and drive off, but I'm like, that's not going to work here. So I'm just, I'm stuck. And so she's yelling at me, and I'm just listening. And she's yelling and she's telling me about all the stuff that's going on. Like, I can't believe you're ridiculous. This is so stupid. I can't believe you're here. This and this is going on. And we've told the bank this and that, blah, 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 blah. And everybody's like, nobody's listening and you're still coming and it's costing us money. All this stuff. And I just listened. And I just was like, whoa. And then she'd ask a question. And so I'd start to answer the question. And then she'd cut me off and start spouting again, right? Just and ask me a question. And I'd be like, well, because blah, blah, and she and so finally I was just like, okay, this is just, what's happening here is just noise. And so I'm going to wait for the noise to stop.
What's happening here is just noise.
But here's the beautiful thing. What happened was a principle I read. I can't remember which book. It might have been How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, or How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of those two books. But what I did was I gave her a chance to let off the energy, to have her, like what Ryan was calling her freak out session, her breakdown session, right? Where she was exploding. I got to be the person to give her that opportunity to release all that pent up energy and stress and let it out. And at first I felt like it was directed at me, and then I was like, no, this isn't all directed at me. This is directed at the whole situation. I'm listening to her, and she's talking about stuff going on with her husband. She's talking about stuff going on in her job. She's talking about stuff going on with her crazy dog. She's talking about, all kinds of stuff, right? And I'm like, so this is just her letting all this out. And so I was just like, okay, I will be that person, and I'll let her just blow off the steam she needs to blow off. And finally, the volume got lower and decreased, you know, and whatever. And it was crazy. And then she asked a question and she let me answer it. And that was interesting. Like, I actually got the whole answer out and she heard the answer. And then after that, she was kind of just like, "Ah, I'm so sorry. That was so wrong of me. Blah, 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 this and that. I know this is just your job. You're like an angel." She'd give me this big old hug, which tells you it's before COVID, right? Because, there's no hugging going on now. But like,
Yeah, now she'd give you a big old elbow.
Right, exactly. Boom. Right. But she like hugged me like multiple times. She's crying. She's like, "I just don't know what to do." All this stuff. And I'm like, "You can get through this." I just encouraged her at that point, and I was like, just stay in contact with them. It'll be fine. All these kinds of things. And I can tell that you're a fighter and you're going to hold on to this house. You're not going to lose this house. I gave her that little bit of confidence right there. Right. And she was like, "Okay," and I had to go back a few times, because a lot of times in that profession, it's on a cyclical basis, like you go and you check on the house for a few months in a row while the whole thing's working itself out. And I stopped back at that house a few more times. Every time she'd come out and she'd greet me. She'd take the little door card that I had and she'd talk to me and she'd be like, "It's getting kind of late in the day. You need to get home and see your kids, don't you?" And all this stuff. And like it turned into this great friendship, really, in those few minutes. And you know what? The house ended up dropping off my route, which tells me encouragingly that probably they worked out their problems and it all got figured out. They kept their house, right? So I know that was a really long story. But here's the point. Sometimes we got to let off some steam. Sometimes someone around us is going to need to let off some steam. And how great would it be if we could be that person that they could do that with us? Right? That's really awesome. You're going to find yourself in both positions in your life. You're going to find yourself in the position of needing to let off steam. And you're also going to find yourself in the position of being around somebody who needs to let off some steam. And it's okay. One of the best ways I've found to purge myself of this balloon feeling that you're talking about, the emotions that I'm holding in, they feel like a balloon, that balloon is about to pop. One of the things for me is physical activity. And it seems strange because you think to yourself, you know what? My brain is what's full here. My brain is what's going on. Like I've got all this stress from these thoughts and this stuff. It's all in my brain. What is physical activity going to do? It's the release of that energy. Just like that lady, her release of the energy was in her, speaking loudly and aggressively for a period of time. That's energy. It's leaving her body. It's being released out of her body. These emotions that you're feeling, that's energy being stored up and pent up, and it's gathering and it's clogging things and it's just getting all stuck in there. To release that energy physically, I've found is one of the most effective things I can do. And it's just doing some push-ups or doing some sit-ups or running in place or doing some squats or, you don't have to have a fancy gym membership or anything. I mean, you can just do it next to your bed. You go down on the floor, do some push-ups, do a bunch until you can't do any more. And if you can do push-ups where your feet are on your toes, where you're going from your toes, go until you can't do those anymore, then go to your knees. and then do push-ups until you can't do those anymore, and then, just kind of collapse. A lot of people I know also run. That's another one that you can do. But something I learned this from the Miracle Morning book by Hal Elrod, that when your mind is all clogged up with stuff and emotions are taking over and you're just getting really worked up, one of the best things you can do is blow off some steam. And you can do that either by having a vocal breakdown and freaking out vocally, and that releases the energy. You can go for a run, that releases energy. You can do push-ups, that releases energy. There's all kinds of different ways. But if you want rid of that pent-up feeling, there's energy that needs to be released somehow. And sooner or later it will, one way or another. But you can take care of it in, doses with some regular physical activity. So anyway, that's what I got. Ryan, have at it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. I like your diagnostic, I guess your, what do you call that? Your advice, sure, that's what we'll call it, on how to kind of let some of that steam off. I've got a recommendation that would come from my mom. If you're experiencing this, if it's towards a certain person or towards a certain maybe corporation, or just the way a certain aspect of life works, here's something my mom does, and I think it's brilliant. She writes a letter, and she makes it the most sincere she can. What I mean is, she points out all the flaws, but she makes sure she writes the letter in a way that's respectful and that the person is encouraged to do better, right? Not just encouraged because you said so, but actually encouraged, like, hey, you're doing great at this. You could just do this part more, and that would be really nice. Or, hey, if you could maybe not do this part, that'd be really cool. And I think that would help a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. So she writes a letter. And that lets off a lot of steam, because just as we were talking in the last topic, it gets all of that stuff in your mind that your brain is running loops around, and it puts it out into the world in a form of action that is even readable. And it allows your brain to empty out, because now your brain has discarded it onto the paper. Okay? And the next step to this is your choice. And then I'll tell you what my mom usually chooses. You can either send it or you can destroy it. My mom usually does the second option. She writes it and she debates whether she should send it or not for a day. And then she doesn't send it immediately. She waits a day, because in an emotional situation, you don't want to just go off and be like, I regret everything I just did.
Right.
Because it could be that your letter is really just not very well written. It could be very crude or misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And many times my mom has sent letters that have been misunderstood. So wait a day. By the way, do this with your shopping too. It's highly recommended. If you have a big purchase and you're not sure, or even a small purchase, and you wait a day to buy it, it usually helps settle the emotional things, like, oh, I don't really need it. It was just an emotional desire to buy it. It allows those things to settle. So wait a day before you buy. So same kind of concept. Wait a day before you send the letter. And you might decide, you might read it over a few times and then go, you know what? Nah, they don't need this. I'm over it. Shred. Maybe I'll just go talk to him. Shred. But I would recommend that. That's what my mom does, and it seems to help her a lot. I think it's a really good idea. And I've done it in the past, very few times. Um, one time, my teacher, what was it? I can't remember. I got in trouble in school, and they let my mom know about it.
How did you get in
And it
trouble
was
in school?
something, huh?
How did you get in trouble in school?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember what it was. I don't. I, for the life of me, don't remember. My mom remembers better than I do. Anyways, my mom made me write an apology letter to the teacher.
Hmm.
And I said, I'm not in the wrong here. My teacher has wronged me. And if you want me to write this letter, I will. But I don't want to. And she said, you're going to write that letter. And so I wrote it. And I took that letter and I handed it to her. After a couple hours, I wrote it. I handed it to her. And I said, here's this letter. You can send it if you want. But if you do, you are lying. Because this paper is a complete lie. And I walked away. And she read over the letter. She was like, this is the nicest letter I've ever read in my entire life. But now I can't send it. I'm so mad. But I'm so happy. Because, I mean, it was great, right? Like, I did what my mom did. I accepted my punishment, and I wrote the letter, and I said it was insincere because whatever it was, I felt that it was whatever. I was not in the wrong, or it was unjustified, or whatever it was. I don't remember, but I told her, like, this paper, if you send it, that's on you, because this is a lie, you know? And so she just took it, and she saved it. I think she saved it for a long time, but it burned in the fire. Or maybe it was after the fire and she just threw it away. I don't know. One of the two. She held on to it and decided, like, after thinking about it, she'd throw it away. But the thing is, doing that helped me get over this scenario, because at that point I was just very mad at my teacher. And even after writing it and giving it to her, I was mad for a little while. Sure. But it really helped me let go, because I had said all the things I needed to say, but I had chosen to take a very kind way of approaching it. Or I had admitted to my wrongs, even though I hadn't wronged. Either way, taking an action, right? Joe was talking about exercising as an action. Taking an action really helps your brain to let it go. Because now you've taken this thought and you've put it into reality. And your brain no longer needs to concentrate on it anymore. So write a letter. Maybe don't send it. Write out all your emotions. Some people keep a journal, right? And they write in their journal every day. And you can see many journals out there filled with tons and tons of emotional flares. And it keeps them calm. Or, on the other hand, I've seen too, it programs them in a bad way to let their emotions kind of run wild. So you need a balance. In Baka Breaker, you already have the side where you're capable of taking your emotions and holding on to them and not letting yourself overreact to them. That is a talent. That is a beautiful thing that you have. But it needs a balance, right? You need time to expose those. You need time to release those. You need time to give those a time of day, right? Because if you have all those emotions and all those things, those troubles, and you don't give them the time of day, they're just going to sit in there, right? And that's what you're experiencing. So it's good that you have the ability to withhold yourself. It is a good thing. But you also need to have the ability to release yourself, because that is a good thing too. So, writing a letter, here's another one. Talk to the person, if it's a person. Or if it's not a person, even better, talk to a person. Because if it's a person that you're having an issue with, like maybe they've been saying something that's been getting on your nerves for a really long time. You never said anything, but you really want to. find a way to encounter that person on a one-on-one and let them know, hey, you're not wrong. I'm wrong for thinking this, but I got to tell you. So don't be offended. I have to kind of go off on you for a second. And so don't be offended. It's not about you. Okay. Don't be offended. I just need someone to vent to. Is that all right if I vent to you? And let them know what's on your mind. Maybe you'll have a productive conversation. You know? But I think it's important. There are times in my life where I didn't even realize I was holding emotions bottled up. And then I start talking to someone. And then as soon as I just start crying. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. I guess this is release time, right? There are scenarios where you're holding something in and you finally get the chance to tell someone that you can trust, or even if you don't trust them, maybe it's a stranger, you know? Maybe you go to someone in your school and be like, yo, we don't ever talk. Can I talk to you for a moment? I got to vent to someone. You know, is that all right? And they'll probably be like, yeah, I guess. Sure. And you'll let off that steam, and it's good. Because, again, it allows your mind to get rid of it. Because a lot of these things, they don't matter. You matter a lot more than your problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You matter a heck of a lot more than your problems, because if you weren't here, you wouldn't have those problems. And those problems wouldn't be worth anything. Every problem is worth something good. Okay? Every problem is worth something good. We don't suffer for nothing. We suffer for great things, right? And a lot of times our suffering, we don't even choose to, but we receive it. But when we go through that trial of suffering, we prove our beauty. We prove our value, that we get to exist in this world, and it is a wonderful thing. We prove to God that we love him enough to deal with it. We prove to ourselves that we love ourselves enough to deal with it. Right? Important stuff. And of course, that's not to mention all the other things we gain from suffering, like all of the virtues.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them can be gained through suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Items, monetary values, we can gain through suffering. Talents and abilities, we gain through suffering, right? So when you're going through these things and you've got all this pent-up aggression, remember, hey, this suffering, it's here for a good reason. Not just a reason, a good reason. But I have to make it a good reason. That's on you. Remember that. That's your responsibility. Because there's a lot of people out there who do not recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
They suffer to no cause. They suffer for nothing. Because they haven't chosen to make something good of it. Because they'd rather sit there in self-pity and go, it's not my fault. I don't deserve this. And then do nothing. And wait for life to get better for them. Wait to win the lottery or something, And it's like, stop waiting. Make your suffering good. But that's on you. That's on you. And you can do that, Baka.
Mm.
You can do that. You've proven before. You're an awesome person. I know you got a lot on your mind. It's okay to release it. It's okay to cry a little. It's okay. So find someone to talk to. Write it down. Do some exercising. There's a lot of different options. But put your thoughts into action so that you can get them out of your system. Because otherwise, like you said, you're just going to pop. Mm-hmm. And when you do, if you do, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. That's okay. If you pop, that's okay. But if you can avoid it, fantastic. Fantastic. But if you don't, if it's inevitable, if you don't avoid it, know that it's okay. Don't be upset at yourself. It's normal. Almost every single human being on this earth has had an emotional breakdown. Joe would not believe me. I've watched my brother have an emotional breakdown.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
You're right. I don't.
Yeah, no, I've seen. I won't tell you why or when, but I've watched him go through an emotional breakdown before, and it. In that moment, I was just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That was it. That was all I was thinking. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. That was it. It was like I sat there for like half an hour, like I don't know what to do. And then he was over it. He was done. And then we moved on and we started working hard at whatever it is we were working on. And we went and we moved. And it was all okay. But he needed that time. He needed that time. That was his time. You know, sometimes we just have to suffer like that. And that's okay. If it's not for anything else, it helps us to understand when other people do it around us. Like, hey, I've been there before. I've been there before. I'm not going to pity them or not going to shame them. I'm going to pity them, but I'm not going to shame them. You know, it's like, how could I have been there before? At least it's relatable. But anyways, that's what I got. Sorry for carrying on, but yeah. Joe, do you have anything else you want to add?
I did notice Magician Jester. I noticed in the chat here. He said, "I don't need a journal. I can't forget my problems even if I try. It makes my decisions clear and the mental pain nice and crisp." And I would refer you back to what Ryan was just talking about suffering and everything. And sometimes journaling, that's a practice that I've done daily now for a long time, and it can really clarify and crystallize those painful spots in our lives, and it can really sharpen them, and make them cut, because it clarifies the issue. And then it's like, oh my gosh, this really is like that. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, that's
But those moments, that's where healing happens. Pain is a sign of healing. It's a sign of a problem. It's a sign that there's an issue, right? But it's also part of the healing process to go through that pain. And one of the things Ryan said on an earlier topic is sometimes we don't journal necessarily collect our thoughts so we can remember what it is we're dealing with. Sometimes we write something down in order to free ourselves from it. So that way we can free our mind of it. It's written down, our mind can let go of it.
Yeah, if it needs to think about it again, what's on that piece of paper?
Yep. It's there.
We don't
There's a
usually
record of it
forget,
somewhere.
but
Yep.
at least our brain isn't so obsessed about it anymore.
Right, exactly. We can get past that's the perfect word, that obsession. We can get past that obsession. And yes, it can bite a little bit. It can definitely cut and it can hurt. But sometimes that's exactly what we needed to move forward. It hurts when I do chest and back day. That hurts a lot. I put together a new workout regimen. It's a 6-day per week program, right? And I'm going through it right now to test it. It's 8 weeks, 6 days a week, and I'm going through it right now to see how it does. And I put chest and back on the same day.
Oh.
Because a lot of times, here's the thought process behind this, right? Okay, because I want to be done fast. I want to be done with the workout fast, like 22 minutes, right? So, but I also want to build strength. And the way to build strength is to have long rest periods in between working a muscle group, right? So the thought is, if I work the opposing muscle group, during that time I'm resting. So because there's your chest muscles are working, and what's happening is my back muscles are kind of stretching at that time, right? Resting and stretching. And then when I'm working back muscles, my chest muscles are resting and stretching, if that makes sense. But what I found out is those are such big muscle groups that it just is hard.
Yeah, my immediate thought when you said that is when you use a muscle and it starts to tear, right? You start to use it up,
Mhm.
right? Your body compensates by finding different muscle groups to use to do the same activities. So instead of reaching like this, right, where I use those muscle groups, my arm won't go up, but I'll move my back and then I'll do that instead to reach the same height instead of going like that, right? It's a natural reaction as we work out or when we hurt ourselves, right?
Right.
And so when you said that you work your chest and then in your back, I was thinking, well, what you're doing is you're using your chest muscles, the natural submuscle group that immediately wants to start to act for the chest is the back. The back's going to start to be used more to help give the chest a rest. And then vice versa, if you're working your back muscles, the muscles over here are going to want to be used instead of your back muscles so that your back muscles have time to heal. But if you're working both of them on the same day, it's just like,
Right.
oh,
Just alternate between the two, right? So it's like
Yeah.
chest and then back and then chest and then back and then chest and then back. So what's happening is, I'm working hard in the chest and then I'm giving that a rest while I work the back and then
Okay.
back, so it's like, so you get the rest period as well as the work, so, and I don't know, we'll see. I'm only in week 2 right now, but
we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway,
So-
it's hard. It's painful. The point is it's painful. But anytime I've had exercise programs that are painful, they're also effective usually. Unless
That makes
they're
sense.
injuring you.
Unless you're injured. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a different kind of painful. That we don't
That's
wanna...
different. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's all I had. So
Well, thanks, Bucket Breaker. Thank you for the topic. I hope that we've helped give perspective or give you encouragement to start releasing that and finding ways to do it. That built up tension, or if all else fails, to understand that it's all right. If you break down, it's okay. We've all done that. It stinks, but it's okay. So yeah, hope that helps. And thank you for your patience. Thank you for being with us, everybody. I realize that our runtime now is like 2 hours and 15, 16, 17 minutes, somewhere around there. So it is time for us to get going. And I just want to say that we are thankful and really happy that you guys are all in the chat with us. It's awesome to read you guys' comments, and we love you guys so much. Yeah. Thank you.
you guys are amazing.
Thank you for blessing us with your presence.
Absolutely. This show is for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for sure. I mean, it is absolutely for you guys. And we don't have everything right here, by the way. Just as a thing, it's like we're not here because we're the best. We're here because we suffer along with you, and we get to expound on that. So
Yep. We're all in this whole crazy life thing together.
Yeah.
And anytime we can help each other out, man, that's cool.
Yeah.
And to see you guys do that in the chat is really, really cool. And
Yeah.
And it's a blessing
sure.
to be with all of you. So
Thank
you.
You guys have a lot of wisdom to share as well. So we thank you. With that, I bid you adieu.
Adieu? Adieu what?
Like a Mountain Dew.
Oh, don't worry, Wednesday is not sponsored by Pepsi Cola Company.
Yeah, that's the second time it was mentioned. Sorry. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Love
Love
y'all.
you guys. We'll see you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Peace.
Bye.